Hi guys, I'm Ross Hoddinott from Nature TTL, and today I'm going to show you how to take better macro photographs on a budget. I've been a photographer for over 20 years now, and I'm in a fortunate position that I have professional kit and I have a nice camera and good macro lenses, but that wasn't always the case. And when I started out, I had to work on a budget, and I'm sure that's something which you can also appreciate. And if you're just dabbling in macro photography for the first time, or you just don't have the money to invest in a macro lens, then you will want to know that there are other ways to get close to subjects. And today I'm going to show you the alternative to buying an expensive macro lens. There are three popular ways to convert your standard optics into a close focusing lens, and one of those is a close-up filter, and it's a really popular and relatively inexpensive choice. This is the nicey close-up filter, and they couldn't be simpler to use. You just literally screw it in to the front of your lens. I'm using a 70-200mm lens here, which is a nice choice because that's going to generate a fairly good working distance. And once it's screwed into the front, that allows your lens to focus much closer, and it's a great choice for photographing butterflies and bees and different subjects that are around. I just want to give you an idea of just the difference the close-up filter makes when I attach it to this lens. So I'm going to take a photograph initially without the filter. I'm going to focus on this knapweed in front of me at the lens's minimum focusing distance, and just take a shot so you can see that I'm kind of just around a metre away. And now I'm going to just attach the Nisi close-up filter. This is going to allow me to get much closer, and you can see now that because I'm physically much closer to the subject, I'm able to fill the frame. You get a very different type of image. Although this video is in partnership with Nisi, I've been genuinely impressed with this close-up filter. The optical quality and the construction is excellent, and if you want to read my full review, have a look at the Nature TTL website. You can also buy the filter using the link below. Another budget way to take close-ups is to use an extension tube like this one, and this just fits between your camera and lens, your standard lens, and allows it to focus physically closer, and by doing so it increases the magnification of your lens. These are really neat, very easy to use. This one's an automatic version which retains all the auto features on your camera like AF and metering, but you can get non-automatic versions which are very cheap indeed, and they're a great way of converting your existing optics into close focusing ones. The third method of converting your existing optics into a close focusing device is to use a reversing ring, and this allows you to mount a lens back to front on the camera, and by doing so you can actually achieve very high levels of magnification. Converters and reversing rings are relatively cheap, especially non-automatic versions, and they're a very easy way to convert, say, a standard 50mm lens into a close focusing device. The disadvantage of them is you tend to have to work very close to the subject, and for subjects out in the field like butterflies and bees, it's less practical than perhaps using a longer lens. Tripods aren't essential for macro photography, and they're also an added expense, and when you're shooting during the day you will often need to shoot handheld anyway. What I would suggest is that you increase your ISO to 800 or 1600 to make sure that you achieve a really fast shutter speed, and it can be worth pre-focusing your lens instead of using autofocus and then just literally rocking backwards and forwards slowly in position until your subject comes sharp through the viewfinder, and then just take a number of shots to make sure that you get one absolutely pin sharp. When you take close-ups, one of the things you often associate with being a problem is light, and light can be in really short supply when you're photographing subjects at high magnification. Now, if you're shooting close-ups on a budget, you're not going to want to go out and buy a flash or a dedicated ring or twin flash, and so I would recommend you just use natural light instead. Now, one way you can generate a faster shutter speed with natural light is just to increase your ISO, and that can be very, very effective, and most cameras today have excellent high ISO performance. The other thing you can do if you're in a situation where your subject is relatively static, so a flower or a roosting butterfly or damselfly, is to use reflected light. And reflected light can be very, very powerful, and all you're doing really is just bouncing light back onto the subject to relieve ugly deep shade and just to kind of create a slightly more even effect. And you don't have to even go out and buy a dedicated reflector for this. Just using a piece of white card, or even better, some foil just wrapped around a piece of card will do the job nicely. And here is one I made earlier. Very simple, just tin foil just wrapped around a piece of card, and just using this to bounce light, natural light, back onto the subject is fantastic. Another good way of supplementing natural light is to use LEDs, and I use continuous light sources quite a lot now in my work. Now, you don't have to buy a really expensive photography LED unless you absolutely have to. Now, the ones you buy specifically for photography have got lots of really great functionality that attach to your camera via the hot shoe, and you can adjust the white balance as well. But you can just use a very cheap, inexpensive LED from a hardware shop, or even use a head torch, or even the torch on your phone, and they will all have the same effect. This is quite a cold looking LED, but you can easily warm this up by just putting a gel over the top, and this will work just as well to just place close to your subject and just lift shadows, or potentially even just to place it behind the subject to create some really nice dramatic backlighting. So there's a small damselfly down here, just a common blue damselfly. I'm going to just try and get a shot of it, but it's in the shadows at the minute, so I need to supplement the light. A reflector won't work because it's too dark and there's not enough light to reflect. So I'm going to use the LED just to put a little bit of light on this damselfly. Now, I would much prefer to have my camera fixed on a tripod when I'm doing this. It's much easier to have your camera in a fixed position and then have your hands free to hold the LED. I'm just going to pop this light onto it, and the supplementary light has just lifted the damselfly a little bit from its background. It's worked really well, and this just literally cost a few quid, and it makes such a big difference. Thank you for watching, and I hope that's given you some ideas and inspiration to shoot macro on a budget. And if you've got your own ideas, please put them in the comments and share them with everyone. And lastly, don't forget to subscribe to Nature TTL's YouTube channel.